4:17 a.m. local time on March 28th. Impact signatures multiplied across central Israel. Not scattered, not sequential, multiplied simultaneously. Israeli Homefront command operators were tracking what radar showed as 12 incoming projectiles crossing from Lebanese airspace into Israeli territory. Standard Iron Dome protocol called for immediate intercept calculations. Battery commanders at 3 sites had already begun engagement sequences. And then the trajectory data came back wrong. Not slightly off. Wrong in a way that meant the math the system was running, the intercept geometry it was calculating, the engagement envelope it was designed to operate within, none of it matched what was actually in the air. For 43 seconds, Iron Dome batteries attempted intercept solutions on targets moving too fast, too high, and on too steep a descent angle for the system to effectively engage. The impacts that followed weren't the result of a defense failure. They were the result of a weapon category the defense was never designed to stop. What hit central Israel? That's the question I want to hold for a moment, because the answer matters less than what the attack revealed. And I don't think the way this story has been covered so far comes close to touching what it actually means. This is war conflict, and if you want military analysis that goes beyond the headlines to explain what these events actually mean operationally, hit subscribe now. What I'm about to show you in the next 15 minutes isn't in any mainstream coverage of this attack. Let's get into it. Israel's official statement, released 4 hours after the strikes, said Iron Dome successfully intercepted 8 of 12 incoming threats, with 4 impacts causing minor damage to non-critical infrastructure. That's the sentence that started alarm bells for me. Not because I think the IDF is lying exactly, but because of what they chose to describe as minor damage. 12 simultaneous impacts in central Israel, a defensive system with a claimed 90% intercept rate achieving only 67% effectiveness, and damage described in a way that tells you almost nothing about what was actually hit or how much interceptor inventory was expended trying to stop weapons the system was never designed to engage. Let me tell you what actually struck Israel that night, because almost nobody covering this story has bothered to explain it properly. And once you understand what the Fateh-110 is, not just what it's called, but what it does, the phrase successfully intercepted becomes very hard to sit with. The Fateh-110 is not a rocket. It's not a mortar. It's not the kind of threat Iron Dome was built to defeat. What it is a short-range, solid-fuel ballistic missile. Iranian-designed, domestically produced by Iran, and manufactured under license by Hezbollah production facilities in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley. Here's what that means in practice. Range, 300 to 500 kilometers depending on variant, enough to reach Tel Aviv from southern Lebanon. Speed, Mach 3 to Mach 4 in terminal phase. That's 3,600 to 4,800 kilometers per hour as it descends toward target. Trajectory, ballistic arc reaching altitudes of 80 to 100 kilometers before descending at angles exceeding 70 degrees. Guidance, inertial navigation with terminal GPS guidance on newer variants, giving it a circular error probability of under 10 meters. And here's the part that changes everything about how you defend against it. The Fateh-110 doesn't fly like a rocket. It flies like a missile. Iron Dome was designed to intercept short-range rockets and artillery shells, targets with ranges of 4 to 70 kilometers, flying at subsonic speeds on predictable parabolic arcs. The system calculates where the rocket will be in X seconds, positions an interceptor to meet it there, and detonates a proximity warhead to destroy the incoming threat. It does this extraordinarily well, against Qassam rockets, against Grad rockets, against the weapons Hamas fires from Gaza. Iron Dome achieves intercept rates exceeding 85%. But the Fateh-110 doesn't behave like those weapons. It enters the atmosphere at 3 times the speed, it descends at twice the angle, and the window between detection and impact, the time Iron Dome has to calculate intercept geometry, launch an interceptor, and guide it to target, shrinks from 40 seconds to less than 15. Iron Dome wasn't designed for 15-second engagement windows against Mach 4 targets. Israel has a different system for that. It's called David's Sling. Here's what I keep coming back to. The thing that made me spend the last 3 days pulling apart intercept telemetry and inventory reports, and the very deliberate gaps in official statements. The question isn't whether Iron Dome can intercept Fateh-110 missiles. Under ideal conditions, with enough warning, with the target in the right part of its trajectory, the answer is yes, sometimes. The question is, what does it cost when Israel uses the wrong interceptor against the right threat? And the answer is a number that changes the entire calculation. An Iron Dome Tamir interceptor costs approximately $50,000. A David Sling stunner interceptor, the missile actually designed to engage threats like the Fateh-110, costs approximately $1 million. A Fateh-110 missile costs Iran roughly $500,000 to produce. Now here's the part that should make everyone recalculate what happened on March 28th. Israel fired Iron Dome interceptors, not David's Sling. Why? Because David's Sling inventory is limited, expensive, and reserved for higher value threats. Iron Dome has deeper magazines and cheaper missiles. But when you use a $50,000 interceptor against a $500,000 ballistic missile and achieve a 67% intercept rate, you're not winning the math. You're losing it slowly. Let me say that again, because I think the first time it sounds like a statistic, and I need it to land like what it actually is. Israel expended cheaper interceptors against a weapon category they were never designed to stop, achieved a lower intercept rate than the system's design standard, and the adversary now has confirmation that they can force Israel into a cost trap every single time they choose this weapon. Because here's the thing, and this is the moment where I need you to actually stop and recalibrate. Israel doesn't have a good move here. I mean that precisely. Both available paths lead to the same destination by different routes. Option 1. Continue using Iron Dome against Fateh-110 missiles. If Hezbollah has confirmed that Fateh-110 salvos can penetrate Iron Dome coverage at rates exceeding 30%, and if those penetrations can reach central Israel with predictable accuracy, then every future salvo is launched with the knowledge that 1 in 3 missiles will likely impact. Israel fires cheaper interceptors. Hezbollah accepts a 67% attrition rate. The missiles that get through hit targets that cost far more to repair than the missile cost to produce. That's not defense. That's slow attrition. Option 2. Switch to David's Sling for Fateh-110 intercepts. David's Sling has the speed, the altitude, the engagement envelope to reliably intercept Fateh-110 missiles. Intercept rates would likely exceed 85%, possibly 90%. But here's what that costs operationally. David's Sling interceptors cost 20 times more than Iron Dome missiles. Israel's David's Sling inventory is a fraction of Iron Dome's magazine depth. Every stunner missile fired at a Fateh-110 is one less interceptor available for the threats David's Sling was actually designed to stop: medium-range ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and aircraft. Hezbollah fires $500,000 missiles. Israel responds with $1 million interceptors. The cost ratio inverts. Israel spends $2 for every $1 of threat. So, option 1 means accepting higher impact rates with cheaper interceptors. Option 2 means better intercept rates but worse cost ratios and faster inventory depletion. Neither option restores what existed before Hezbollah proved the Fateh-110 could reach central Israel in salvos large enough to overwhelm intercept capacity. The trap, and I want to be precise about why I'm calling it a trap rather than just a tactical challenge, is that Hezbollah doesn't need to penetrate Israeli air defense every time. They need to force Israel into inventory depletion every time. Nobody's talking about the production math. And the production math is where this story becomes genuinely alarming. Israel produces Iron Dome interceptors domestically through Rafael Advanced Defense Systems. Production capacity is estimated at 2,000 to 3,000 Tamir missiles per year under peacetime conditions. David's Sling production runs significantly lower, roughly 200 to 300 stunner interceptors annually. Hezbollah's Fateh-110 production, conducted in hardened facilities in the Bekaa Valley with Iranian technical support and component supply, is estimated at 400 to 600 missiles per year. Here's what that means in a sustained exchange. If Hezbollah launches Fateh-110 salvos at a rate of 50 missiles per week, and if Israel maintains current intercept doctrine using a mix of Iron Dome and David's Sling, Israeli interceptor consumption exceeds production within 8 to 12 months. After that, the magazines start running dry. Not immediately, but predictably. And those timelines, measured in months, are exactly what Iranian military planners are building operational strategies around. Here's what makes this harder to talk about than it should be. Israel cannot publicly acknowledge that Fateh-110 salvos represent a category of threat that its most deployed defense system struggles to intercept cost-effectively, without triggering demands for a military response against Hezbollah production facilities. A military response against hardened Lebanese targets invites escalation. Escalation accelerates interceptor consumption, the exact resource Israel needs to preserve to survive escalation. So the official position becomes successfully intercepted. Not because the people saying it believe the problem is solved, but because the alternative, publicly acknowledging that Hezbollah has a weapon that forces Israel into an unsustainable cost ratio every time it's used, creates a strategic spiral with no clean exit. The silence isn't a cover-up. The silence is a choice between bad options, and whether Israel found anything useful to do with the time that silence bought is the question that keeps this from being a simple story about missiles that got through. That demonstration hasn't happened.